Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, we're East Coast Adventures. This is the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Mike.
We have special guests today, which many of you probably know if you run any ultras, but his name is Luke Bollschweiller. So Luke is a very talented runner, and he's actually very fast too. So Luke holds a couple of course records, and he also has set several FKTs. So Luke, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Sure. So I'm originally from Boise, Idaho, and when I was about 5 years old, the teacher said, "Hey, kids, we're going to go run around the school today." And I said, "I'm going to beat all these kids." And that first time I ever raced a bunch of other kids, I whooped them all. And from that point on, I thought to myself, "This is something I want to keep doing." And I've pretty much been a runner in my whole life. I've had minor times off, but did running all through junior high school, high school. I did not run for any college because I really just wanted to focus on my studies, but I ran during college. And then when I got out of college, I moved to East Tennessee and started my hand at different events, and little by little I got up to the marathon. And then after doing the marathon a bunch of times, I thought I don't really have much interest in this anymore. I want to do something longer. And then I started trying my hand at longer stuff. And the first time I ever ran 100 miles was actually at a race you all know very well, the Three Sisters. And then I just continued to try to build upon those experiences. And I don't know how many I've done at this point, but my ultra sign-up resume is not short, maybe not extremely long, but I've done a few things. So that's kind of the brief summary. I guess one other thing is I could say that whereas maybe if some people have joined running, ultra running as an adult and not been a youth runner, I was relatively fast as a kid, about a 16 flat 5K-er in cross country, 430 miler in track. So I was never quite super awesome, but I had some speed. So taking that into how I still run as an adult, as even a 48-year-old, I still sometimes harken back to those periods of my life when I ran really fast. So that's kind of summary, I guess.
So did you run track and cross country in high school?
Yeah. I ran from the time I was about 12 years old. I ran year round. I never stopped. I just always kept running. So
were you were training a lot back then even?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I probably ran about 50 miles a week. When I was in junior high school, probably only 30, but I still ran 6 days a week in junior high school. I often would say to people, I don't train to race. I race once in a while because I love to run and I might as well test myself. So I would run year round every day if I could, regardless if I have a race on the schedule or not.
That's a good way to look at it right there.
So what was your PR marathon?
2:58.
Sub 3. Nice work.
Yeah, that was the goal. I almost didn't get it.
Which race did you do that at? Do you remember?
Myrtle Beach, super flat.
Oh, jeez.
David Kyle talks about that one a lot.
It's as flat as they come.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So you went from cross country and track in high school, then went into marathoning, and then years later you decided to do your first ultra? What was your
Yeah.
very first ultra that you did?
Very first, I think it's Black Mountain Marathon. Or I'm sorry, Mount Mitchell.
Okay, I see that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's my very first. Ultrasign Up will also put in like Big South Fork, right? But that one
Yeah,
doesn't.
I see those.
Yeah,
There's a
that,
lot of
that's
big Southport.
You got the name right too. It's Mount Mitchell Challenge and Black Mountain Marathon. So,
yeah,
but yeah, your first ultra, you come out and run 40 miles in little over 5 hours and some change, and fourth overall.
yeah.
That's
That
pretty
was
amazing start.
that was a real satisfying event. That one was a so when I ran that one, it was actually all in a stepping stone to be able to try to do 100 miles at Three Sisters. So it was that same year that I did 100 miles at Three Sisters, but I thought I need a good stepping stone to get there. So that was it.
Did you have any when you done 100 miles at Three Sisters? Did it seem like it was natural? Did you? I mean, to go out there and do it on your very first one, even that one's timed. So most people will pick a 30 to 32 hour cutoff, and get their 100 miler buckle, but you done it 24 hours as the rules are at Three Sisters.
My first year at Three Sisters, I definitely had plenty of time in the bank. Although I'll have to admit, if it hadn't been for Kathy, I would have quit. Like I got through the 12th hour, and I think I'd already done 70 miles in the 12th hour, and I was like, I'm done. This this is starting to suck. And she was like, "What? You aren't stopping?" And I was like, "No, I'm stopping." And as we were debating what I had done, it's kind of funny. I had lined up from basically I think 7 p.m. all the way through the next morning. I had lined up a bunch of friends who are willing to come do 1 or 2 hour slots with me. And my friend showed up right on time, and Kathy's like, "And your friend's here, so get your butt back out there." And yeah, we pretty much only walked the finish the last 12 hours or so, but yeah, it was. I got done with maybe an hour to spare, and I was like, "No, I'm good, Tony."
Mission accomplished. I'm going to sit down.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I have to ask you. I see one race on here. This might have been your first ultra, or but Mount Chiaha.
oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, that is. Yeah, that was such a bad. That was a painful learning experience.
Well,
Um,
tell us about it. That's the ones we want to hear about.
well, it's just the classic thing where you just don't know you're running too hard until you really, really know. Um, I hit like mile 22, and just terrible lockup. I mean, just the quads were just totally seizing. So for those last 9 miles or so, pretty much had to walk the whole way. And if you know that course, around mile 29, you have about a mile where you climb, probably 800 feet in the mile. Lot of steps. And it was like step, and stretch, and step once more, and stretch more. And then what was funny was because I had gotten out so far not in the lead, but towards the front of the pack, I got up on top of the mountain of Mount Cheaha, and you have to run maybe a half a mile to finish. And I'm like, okay, I can finish now. And I started like shuffling along, and the woman leader suddenly starts passing me, and I was like, oh man, I wonder if I can still beat the woman leader. And so I started speeding up just a little bit, and suddenly like everything seized up, and I totally face planted right into the gravel. And I mean, it was like my face was like right in the gravel, and I like scratched up my face and my arms, and I'm lying there, and the woman turns around, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "It's mostly just my pride that's been bruised." and and I'm like, "You go on. I'll be there in about another 5 or 10 minutes." And yeah, when I got to the finish line, she's like, "I was worried about you." I'm like, "Well, thank you, but I just realized I should just walk it in." Yeah, it was a good learning experience just to know, fueling and how hard you really can run early on. Um, I've always had a tendency to want to run fast early, right? And that was one that I definitely ran way too fast. I think I was in second place for most of the race, and then the last 9 miles I wasn't. So
Well, sometimes you have to, I'm a believer in this. Sometimes I cringe when I say it, but every now and then you have to do that to test the waters. Like I want to know like where that limit's at. Like
yeah,
I do that on races still on occasionally.
Yeah.
I've learned not to do that in every race at this point, but I still want to go out fast sometimes and just see, where that governor stops at.
yeah.
Long time. Hold it.
So I'm kind of like going opposite of you here, and I have a question for you. So you started, short distance and have worked your way up to long distance. And I'm doing completely opposite. I've never ran a marathon, so I've been running ultras, and I'm going to run my first marathon in March. But my question for you is, what was your biggest takeaway? Like, what did you learn transitioning from a marathon to ultras? Like, what did you have to focus on and work on?
Well, the classic thing that so many people will say, and I totally agree, is getting specific time on the trail surface or the surface that you're going to be running on. So when you realize that you're going to be doing a lot of trail work, you simply have to get out. You have to find trails, is what I believe. So especially if you're going to be on a mountain course, you've got to learn how to run both up and down. Of course, running up means hiking up, but especially learning how to power hike up and learning how to run down hills is critical, I think, to that transition. And then in general, I think the other key thing is when you get into ultras from marathoning is not worrying as much about the pace and just really focusing on your weekly distance. That becomes more important.
Yeah. And so did the fueling happen to be any issues for you, or have you always just kind of been able to nail that?
No, that's a good point. Yeah. When I was training for marathons and when I actually did marathons, I was more of a liquids only, just electrolytes only, and sometimes gels. And when I tried to transition that to ultras, it didn't work. I just always caused stomach problems. So in ultras, I definitely had to learn that I have to eat real food, different types. But yeah, definitely in a marathon. And it'd be interesting for me to come back to marathon and see if I would eat more real foods. But when I was marathoning, I was definitely pretty lean, just on like something like a Scratch or Gatorade or something like that. And a gel every once in a while, but that was rough. But you only have to endure it for 3 hours, so you could, if you vomit at the end, it's no big deal.
Yeah, you can usually hold that in for 3 hours.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
Yeah,
they cross the
don't
finish
roll up
line.
to too many aid stations in a marathon with their burgers and quesadillas either. So,
yeah, right.
So I got a question with what you said right there. Transitioning and actually time on the ground and what area you're going to run at necessarily. Is it true that you built a trail there at your work? I've heard that before.
Yes.
Was there a reason for that? Was it for the workers or you, or was you just put time on the ground there at work for what you do?
I mean, it's totally self-serving. I run on it almost every day. So yeah, it's up to about 7 miles now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's I've worked on it for about 7 years. Probably put literally 400 or 500 man hours into it. But yeah, I spend a lot of my weekends. If I have a free couple, 2 or 3 or 4 hours, I'll just go out there and shovel away or pick away whatever we're doing that day. Take my chainsaw out there and carve away stuff, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I think more people in the community need to come try it.
Oh, yeah.
Is that open to the community?
Yeah, I mean it's not on a fenced property. It's actually now it's also partially on some Maryville public land, some wetland area, and then the Denso land is also included there. But yeah, it's totally open. If you look at uh, our property, our Denso property, and look up maybe a Strava heat map, you'll totally see because I run it so many. I've literally run 4 or 5 thousand miles on the trail. So there's a strong heat
Wow.
map on there.
Give Luke about 2 more years, he'll be on Alcoa's property.
If I could connect it up, I would, man.
Well, I have to come check it out. I only work like 5 minutes from there, so
Yeah.
I need
That's
to
cool.
change
I
the
mean, have
scenery.
you found it that anybody else uses it? From your work, has anybody else joined craziness?
So I have several coworkers who use it, but not even close to the amount that I use it. Like I would bet literally 90% of the total miles on the trail are me. Because I run it almost every day, and I run about 7 to 10 miles a day on it. And so most people do a 3 mile once a week, something like that. And so even though there's 5,000 people that work in my company, only 5 to 10 people use it a week other than me. So I have most of the miles on it.
Yeah, I think that's it right there.
Oh yeah, Matt's got
that-
it pulled up.
Pretty good zigzagging in there.
Yes, the objective has never been to get to the fastest point from point A to point B. It's always about maximizing trail length. So like switching it back just like 20 feet from itself so that you get maximum length. Yeah.
That's pretty good. It's right in between I don't know, the IHOP and the Lowe's, and
yeah, it's all wetland down there. It's all now like it does flood. Like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had some real serious rain, and man, it was like 3 of the 7 miles were completely underwater.
oh wow,
But you give it a few days and it dries back out.
that's a good training right there. Though.
It's just like some of the races we do, so it's fine.
Yeah. Every once in a while, there's a few sections that I'll be like, because I know this is the lowest part of the trail. I'll be like, okay, I'll splash through maybe like 8 to 12 inches or something. But yeah, it was like 3 feet underwater, and I was like, that's quite dangerous.
Put a sign up.
Yeah.
That one might need a bridge, Luke.
Do not go if it's over this point on this sign or something. I don't know.
Well, that's cool to know.
Yeah, definitely have to go try that out.
Yeah, it's almost 100%. Other than once in a while, I need to bring my chainsaw out because a big tree will fall or something. Almost 100% done with hand tools, and that's been kind of satisfying. I'm just me with a pick and a shovel and a little handsaw, and then maybe once a month or once every other month I'll bring the chainsaw out because this big tree will fall. But that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely hard work. We've been building a trail here at Madisonville on some of the city property, so it's it definitely takes a while, especially when you're clearing it all yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah, but it's really satisfying, right?
Yeah, well, I will say we've used every mechanical tool we have. We've not used hand nothing.
I was gonna say it's really fun.
Yeah,
You get tools out there and a chainsaw, and you just go to town.
Yeah,
you start creating your own little. Like you said, zigzags, and you're just trying to maximize the area you've got. So let's jump back into Three Sisters, though. So you finished Three Sisters, your first 100 miler, 24 hours, you get 100 miles, first place, and then you decide to do a tough race. Looks like in Idaho.
Yeah.
So you went straight from couple small races to a loop race for 24 hours. And then I assume this is probably 100-mile point to point.
Yeah, it's hard. I Am Tough is 106 miles with a lot of vert, 22, I think. And it gets pretty cold at night. I mean, you're up pretty high. The final summit in the nighttime is like around 10,000 feet. And it was, cold. It was probably 35 degrees that night. So it's a terrific race. Oh my gosh, just it. The real cool thing about Idaho mountains, and this is a plug for Idaho in general, but the Idaho mountains are, they look the same as like Colorado mountains, but they're like 3,000 feet lower. So they're beautiful, rocky, a lot of alpine, but you don't have to deal with the oxygen debt that you do in Colorado. And so definitely still, you're going up around 10,000 feet on that course several times. I think you go over 8,500 feet, I should say, maybe 5 times. And every time you get up to that, that's where, for me, at about 7,000, 8,000 feet, that's where I really start to go, okay, I can feel my oxygen debt. Great race. Very satisfying. I was very smart. I didn't go out too hard. Didn't really have too many problems. And yeah, completed it in 26 and a half hours or so. And I can't remember, maybe 9th or 10th overall, something like that. It was,
yeah,
it was
9th overall.
good. It was
So,
good.
so do you have? I always have this thought in my head every now and then, and you saying that, just I got to ask you. You said you didn't go out too hard. Do you wish you would have in that race?
Not that time, but just because I was learning so much. I really was trying to be super disciplined because I didn't want to DNF. Because I knew this was a big step up in technical challenge, and much less, Three Sisters is so safe. Like if you have a problem, you're going to be back in a couple miles.
Yeah.
On this course, you potentially go like 11 or 12 miles sometimes between aid stations in the middle of the night. That can be 3 to 4 hours. So I wanted to be cautious. I actually did go back, and I don't know if it shows up as a DNF or not on my older son. I went back a few years later and tried it again, and I ran much more aggressively, and I did DNF that time. I got way behind on my fluids. It was pretty warm. It was like maybe 75 that day, and that was warm enough for Idaho. And by mile 60, I couldn't eat or drink, and I made it to mile 75 without eating or drinking those 4 hours or so. But I thought, it's too dangerous. It's going to get cold, and I haven't eaten or drunk in like 5 or 6 hours now. It's too dangerous to keep going. So that time I pulled out.
Yeah, that's a fine line you play when you run harder, trying to keep yourself from overheating to the point you're not getting sick or getting behind on calories. And
that's right.
Once you get to that point, it's hard. Now, Three Sisters, you're right, it's a little different. You can almost stop and try to regroup.
Yeah.
But point-to-point races, you don't have everything at your disposal. It's a lot different.
Yeah, that's right. And it takes a long time to learn when you're trying to truly be competitive and not just finish. It takes a long time to learn where that balance is. Am I running too hard or not? And I figured it out a few times. Like really nailed the balance. That was not one of them.
Well, like I said, it's a fine line anyways, and especially if the adrenaline's pumping and you're trying to race somebody. Mm-hmm. Like if someone's right with you, it's kind of hard if you really are racing. It's kind of hard to know where that line is. You're like, I can keep pushing. And then mile 70 or 80, you're like, oh, I screwed up.
Yeah, no more pushing in.
Yeah, and you see it in races like this past weekend, especially because you don't know. Especially like I felt great the whole race, but you're running with these people lap after lap after lap, and you're thinking they could go forever. I feel like I could go forever, and then suddenly they're like, "Oh no!" And when you say, "What happened?" They're like, "Clearly, I was running too hard." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, especially if I encouraged that by like running with you." But
yeah.
Yeah, but races like that where it's last man standing, I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Some people come to last man standings because it's such a safe environment, and they kind of don't know. I mean, it's safe though, right? So if they end up dropping out, then they drop out, and they're not in an unsafe situation, at least.
Yeah, there definitely are some that come to Last Man Standing just to try to get a PR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a great place to learn. Stuff
Exactly.
like that. So, we can go ahead and talk about that race a little bit if you guys want. Let's just go ahead and talk about that one. We'll back up. But so you did the Conquer this
Yeah.
past week. So tell us a little bit about. I mean, this is a brand new race. Winner receives $10,000, or all the prize. I think it was $10,000 at that point, and
Yes.
just a ton of elevation, lots of steps. So tell us a little bit about it. And tell us
Yeah.
about your weekend.
It's down at Amicalola Falls. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's where the Appalachian Trail starts down in Georgia. And it was a hard course, harder than any Last Man Standing that I've ever heard of. It was supposed to be harder than it ended up being. It was supposed to be 1,100 feet per lap. It ended up being 900 because they were doing some trail maintenance and they had to reroute it. And it's a 1 hour per 3.2 mile, and ended up being 3.2, not 3.4 because of the reroute. 1 hour time to get back around. It starts off with a pretty aggressive downhill. I think honestly, the two things that really hurt people first was the aggressiveness of the downhill. I think we probably dropped 800 feet in the mile that we downhill.
Wow.
So it was pretty serious, especially the first half a mile was down a road that had a lot of technical rocky sections on it, but it was steep, and so I ran it really fast every time, and some people kind of teased me about that, but that's how I like to run. But then it drops into a technical single track, which had a lot of roots, a lot of jumps and hops around, and so really fun technical descent. And then it had about a mile that was gently up and gently down. So we're now roughly at 2. And then we begin the climb back up. And then the final stretch is actually stairs, about 400 stairs maybe, that just goes right next to the falls, and really beautiful. And then you have a small loop at the very top to loop up and get up to the finish. So the course was great. I wish it had been harder, and I think next year it will be. And the weather was incredibly cold. We started the race at about maybe 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It warmed up that day at about 20. There was a pretty good breeze, and so it was, with the wind chill, it probably never got above 15, I'd guess. I'm not sure. But the nighttime got really cold. People say that the thermometer said 4 degrees. So with that, there was a good breeze still going. And so it was cold. I don't know, maybe negative something, negative 10 or something. I'm not sure. It was cold. Most men that had beards had serious icicles and snot sickles down their beard. And then, but Sunday afternoon ended up being very pleasant, probably right around freezing. Sunny and freezing. It was great. Like after all of that, you're like, oh, I'll take freezing for sure. Really, really nice. So for me, I started off the race intentionally saying, I like to downhill. I'm just going to downhill hard every lap. And so I usually downhilled that first mile around 8-minute pace or 8:30-minute pace. And from time to time, people would run with me, but in general, I kind of ran by myself. Towards the end of the race, there was a guy, Sam, who officially gets the win. Sam ended up running like maybe the last, I don't know, 15 or 20 laps with me going down that hard pace. So what I liked about that is you get down hard and then you kind of take it easy on the way back up. So I never climbed hard. I just took it easy. So throughout the day for the 34 hours that I ran, I was typically coming in around 45 minutes, sometimes a little faster, like maybe 39 or 38, once in a while 36. And I felt comfortable all day. But the course was sufficiently hard to weed out the field. by mid-afternoon on Sunday, we were down to 7 of us, and then within a few hours, it got pretty apparent that it was going to be the 3 of us: Sam Atherton, Chris Roberts, and myself. And so the 3 of us started talking to each other, like, "How are you feeling? Like, what do you think you got left in you?" And it was pretty obvious. And I think we were all able to be honest with each other, but also just from our performance, it was obvious that we could go a lot longer. So like, I mean, honestly, I bet I could have gone another 20 hours minimum. Nothing was changing. I felt great. I was eating a lot. I was warm enough, drinking plenty. And I think the other guys were doing great too. So around 4 or 5 p.m., we started talking about, do you each really want to go through the night? And the basic, it wasn't hard to push the conversation. It's where I was hoping it would go. And they were all like, not really. Are you talking about a compromise? And we all said, we're in. Do you want to split? You want to split the winnings? And so we all agreed. As soon as the 4th man dropped, we were going to quit. And then we started saying, well, who gets to win? And Chris has won plenty of stuff. He's done lots of stuff. I've won enough that I don't really have a pride issue here. So I said, hey, Sam, you've never won a race like this. I think you should be the winner. And he was like, I really want to win this. Is that okay, guys? And we're like, sure. So Chris, Sam, and I did one more lap together, and we came back, and then we said, okay, Sam, you go do your last lap. And we just stood there and waited for another 50 minutes for Sam to come back, and we congratulated him, and we're going to split the winnings. So Sam, I guess he's receiving the check probably tomorrow, and he's going to be sending us.
You 30, hope. Sam's like, who are you?
I think so. 30 each. So yeah, it was a big win. My brother-in-law was like, wait, how much is that per hour? That, I was like, oh, it's like $95 an hour. That's a pretty good rate.
That's pretty good right there.
But yeah, it was a great race. And the AR Georgia crew did a great job. And I really think if it had been the course that they wanted it to be, it would have been closer to, like, by the 24th hour, I think the 3 of us would have been really pushing hard to even keep going. Because it would have been an extra 200 vert, an extra 0.2 miles that would have added. I told the race director, I said that the race change took roughly 3 to 4 minutes for me off. And for other runners, it'd probably be 5 or 6 minutes time off. That's a huge, huge change.
Yeah.
So I think even if they just went to that next year, to their originally intended course, it would be much harder and a much shorter race. But Jeff, I need to talk to him more. Jeff Leininger is the RD, and he wants to make it even longer now, and I'm trying to debate with him. I'm like, how much longer do you want to make it? Because if you make it too hard, like, half of your field is going to be gone by like the 3rd lap. Right. And so don't make it too hard, right? That's the balance he's got to figure out.
Yeah, I would say the original course, you're right. With that extra 200 feet on 0.2 of a mile, that's a game changer.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine, like, if you've all done mid-state, if mid-state were like a minute and a half longer, that would be a huge game changer, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're people who are just used to going at a decent pace and getting in at 18:30. Now they got to bust their butt to get in by 18:30 at mid-state. In the same way, yeah, if I had to run an extra 4 or 5 minutes at that same pace and then only have a few minutes, yeah, it'd be huge.
Well, an event like that, the attraction is having it go for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you, with your capabilities, want to go in there and be home that same night. I don't think that doesn't test you for what you think you're capable of.
Yeah, I think the ideal, you're right. I think the ideal is if your winners basically go 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because pushing through one night is very satisfying, I think. But going through a second night is a way different story.
Well, and the race is set up to be like a hard last man standing. You don't want it to go for days because that's not going to set it apart from some of the other last man standings.
Exactly.
But you also don't want it so hard that people come out and run 6 hours and you got, 3 people left. So,
Or it deters people. Like, yeah, that's too hard. I'm not going to go waste my time on that because it's pointless.
but
Exactly.
I mean, I think it's made a great name for itself already in the first year. And I mean, that group seems like a really good group that runs it. They put on a lot of adventure races. So, I mean, they're, pretty well known.
Yeah.
From all the feedback that I've seen and heard, I mean, they did a great job updating people. Looks like, they took good care of their runners. So it looks like it was a great event. You gonna do it next year?
Yes, I it's one of my priorities. Yeah. As soon as he opens up registration, I'll get on for sure. I really think he needs to charge more, but I don't quite understand his pricing structure. But that's maybe it was the introductory year that he just really wanted to make sure he filled it. But yeah, next year he needs to charge more and still keep the $10,000, and then he'll get all the interest he needs. But yeah, don't make it too hard.
Well, okay, so let's step back for a few minutes because at the beginning of this entire conversation, you were talking about your ultra sign up list, and it's not extensively long, but it's pretty good length. I just wanted to say, overall, you've done 34 races and you have 26 trophies. So yeah, you got a pretty impressive ultra sign up list, and we've all been scrolling through it looking here. But we wanted to ask you about a couple more races.
Yeah.
And one of them you actually set the course record at a few years ago, and that was Georgia Jewel. Will you walk us through that race and tell us, that day? And also, when you're training for, a 100-mile race or the Conquer or Mid-State Mile or Georgia Jewel, do you change your training strategy for the type of terrain you're running, or do you keep it the same?
Yes, I definitely changed my strategy in a couple key ways. So temperature is one of the biggest things that I change if it's going to be a hot race or a cold race. Obviously, cold race is a lot easier to prepare for. As long as you live in a relatively cold area, it's good to get out there on those cold days. Remind yourself how it is to have snot running down your face and things like that. But it's not as hard. Preparing for heat is way harder. And so that is one thing that I'm 100% committed to any hot race is you have to train in super hot weather. And I've also found that sauna training is super helpful. So that's one key difference. Both at Georgia Jewel, and then the next year when I did Wasatch. Wasatch will show up as a DNF, but in my mind, it's not a DNF because they DNF'd me. They disqualified me because I got lost. Yeah, I got lost, ran some extra mileage, and then I forgot in my brain haze that I wasn't supposed to get in a car. But I got in a car for a quarter mile to get back to the place where I got off. And then afterwards, they're like, you weren't supposed to get in a car to get back. You have to walk your butt back. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. But anyway, it was a terrific race for me. And so was Georgia Jewel, I think partly because I did some serious heat training. But then I definitely also adjust to the total vert that is expected on the course. So Georgia Jewel is not in my mind, not a very hilly course. It's okay. It's about 16 or something.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do a ton of vert training for that course. I did a lot of intentionally running like even running around my town, it's hilly, and so I intentionally did a lot of road training in between like noon and 3 p.m. All summer long, so that I ran on the roads so that I get the most maximum sun exposure and try to be heat acclimated. And I think it made a big impact because it ended up being a little bit cool that day, like maybe only a high of 65 or 70, and it felt like heaven. I mean, I was like, this is the coolest temperature I've run in for all summer. So it made a big impact on my ability to run hard.
So when you switched over to actually run Georgia Jewel, did you have any issues with the technical terrain then after running? I know it's not hilly, but it is a pretty technical course when you're running, especially with the rock garden. Did you have any issues at all running on the road and transferring over to that?
So I was still getting like my weekend runs out in the mountains. So just my weekdays. So the thing I switched between on my weekdays is whether I run on my trail that I made or run on the roads, because it's easy for me to run on my trail. But I should say it's convenient, but it's totally different. It's a very difficult surface to run on. Um, and it's also cool because there's so much shade. So I chose the heat acclimation over the terrain acclimation. And I do recognize that the rock garden is a little technical. It didn't seem that bad to me. It's funny because I felt like everybody was talking it up like it was really bad, and I was like, the rock garden was not hard for me to run.
It destroyed me.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it was pretty tough.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, it's different every year. So, I mean, that's the thing is like it was temperature, how you run, if it's raining or not makes a big difference. But
Do you feel
overall,
like
I mean,
do you feel like it was rough on the way out and way back for you, or just on the way back?
no, the way out was fine.
Yeah.
It's always towards the end when, fatigue setting in and you're trying to, race the end. And I mean, one bad step in the dark on that rock garden, it's just,
Hey, I didn't make the rock garden till the next morning, so I was pretty safe.
Oh, good, good.
but yeah, so when you ran that race and you obviously set the course record, which I believe you still have the course record.
I
Uh,
think so. Yeah.
did you have anybody that was trying to chase you down, or was you pretty far out in front?
I think second place was maybe an hour and a half behind me, maybe 2 hours, something like that. I didn't I didn't care. Um, I didn't I didn't need someone to chase me. I even though I was running hard, um, it's funny, early in the race, you'll often wonder like, you'll be running next to somebody and you're thinking to yourself, do you think you're going to be running this hard 12 hours from now? and and that's the mindset I went into that race. Like, I really want to try to consistently put a consistent effort into this one. And so early on in the race, I was maybe in eighth or ninth place, and I'm like, I just wonder if you guys are running too fast. And little by little, I passed them all, and I just tried to keep that constant effort. And of course, you still slow down. I still slowed down. Um, but it just ended up being such a terrific race. I never had any major problems. Although at one point, although this can happen to a lot of people, like you're starting to try to eat something and it causes a gag reflex, and then you actually do throw up. So I did throw up at one point, but it really wasn't truly stomach distress. It was like, I think I was slurping some ramen noodles and they kind of gagged me, and then I was like, oh no, it's all coming up. But I was able to drink almost immediately after that. I was like, "Oh man, if this really is stomach distress, I have to force myself to drink again right now." And so I started drinking immediately and got it under control. I was like, "Oh, it really probably wasn't. It was just a gag reflex." But it was a good race, and as the caveat, is probably the coolest temperatures the race has ever had. So
Well, you picked a good year to do it then.
Yeah.
yeah.
During that race, what was the hardest part though?
Um, was it called John's Mountain?
Yeah.
So the coming back up over John's Mountain, that was pretty tough. I remember there was a tree down that year, and it was a big tree. I mean, like, one of those mammoth trees that you just wish someone had gone out there with a chainsaw. But I was I was trying to climb over the tree, and it was a little bit of an uphill climb, climbing over this big tree, and I got totally up on it, and then suddenly I was like, whoa, 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 and I totally fell like right backwards, and I'm totally by myself, and I was like, oh man, I could have really, really hurt myself. I did minorly hurt myself. I was like, can't remember, bruised an elbow or something, but uh, coming up John's, I remember feeling pretty rough, but as soon as I got over that, I felt like, dude, I'm home free. I
Yeah.
can I can nail this sucker. Yeah.
I got a question for you though. Like I want to read a couple of these results and then ask you a question. So
Okay.
Three Sisters, you go back, you get first place, 106 miles. Lookout Mountain, you win the 50 miler in a little over 8 hours. Fontandango, you win 7.5 hours.
I set the course record on that.
Did you do the 50 miler?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
And they canceled Fontandango after that, so I've got that one locked.
Then you come back to Three Sisters, you get 112 miles, set a new course record, breaking your old course record, still get first. Beaverhead Endurance 100K, you're third place. Firewater 100K, set the course record, not a little over 9 hours, first place. Three Sisters again, first place. Cumberland Plateau Stage Race, you do all 3 days. Great times. Looks like you got second and third in most of those races. Georgia Jewel, you set the course record. Then you go to No Business 100, finish third place, 20 hours, some change. Black Toe, you go. I think you set the course record there.
So
First place, and then Mid-State, you finished second place in 2021. Second, so you finished with the assist there. And then Hellgate 100K, fifth place. So, I mean, you have a huge list of accomplishments here, and you just, talented runner. Of all of those wins and those races, which one is the most memorable, and which one are you the most proud of?
There's probably two different things. I think probably my best performance ever might be Georgia Jewel, just because I was on point the whole race, and the real satisfying thing about Georgia Jewel is it's a pretty mature race, and to break a course record on a mature race is very satisfying. That was probably I probably look back as that's maybe one of my best results ever. And this past year when the guy only missed it by 13 minutes, I was trying to see if I could maybe banter a little bit, tease him a little bit. I sent him a message and I was like, you should go back next year and run 13 minutes faster and beat me. And unfortunately he must not have thought I was funny, because he didn't respond. And oh well, that's too bad. But probably my most memorable and really, like, the one that I'll just cherish forever, even though I was disqualified, is Wasatch. Wasatch was just it was such a wonderful race. So hard. And I was so correctly prepared. I mean, I was in third place when I got lost. I ended up getting, even though, so you get a special buckle if you finish under 24 hours, and even running the extra 6 miles and messing around a bunch of time trying to figure out where we were, I probably lost like an hour and a half to 2 hours on that 6 miles. I still was able to go under 24 hours, and it was very satisfying. I think I was 9th place before they disqualified me. Wasatch also really solidified that theory of being able to run in heat. Wasatch was wicked hot that year, and it's often hot. You come down from the mountains at a certain point around mile 50 or so, and you have about 5 to 10 miles relatively close to the valley elevation, so maybe 5,500 feet, 6,000 feet, and it was 95 degrees all afternoon. And I went from like 40th place to like third place in the course of like 10 miles because all of my heat training and sauna training, I thought, yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but it's fine. This is nothing compared to my sauna sessions. So I'm putting a big plug in there. If people are preparing for a hot race, go to the sauna, learn how to deal with heat. It makes a huge difference.
I didn't realize Wasatch was so hot. I mean, that's
pretty
some
hot.
serious temperatures to be running in
It
95
was hot.
degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Utah is high elevation, but September is often very hot. So yeah, it was like the nighttime was super comfortable. Like once you make it through that heat of the day, you're up or back around 10,000 feet and it's maybe 45 degrees. Perfect. But yeah, the middle of the day, it's rough. And they talk about it being something, their thing is run through heaven and hell or something like that. Yeah, it feels really, really hellish in the afternoon. It's rough.
Well, what's interesting is that's not even on your ultra sign up no more. It don't even show up as a DNF.
Oh, that's too bad. I thought it said disqualified or something. Or
Nope, you have nothing. So they just deleted you, Luke.
Gone. You were never there, Luke. Sorry.
it's too
Well-
bad. It's just my work against everybody else's.
You just got a good teacher, right?
But I mean, anybody listening to this podcast, if you want a quality mountain race in the West, you should go. It's easy to get to. Salt Lake City is easy to get to. The race is literally like a 20-minute drive from the airport. Super, super good race. One of the oldest races in America. Like it's the fifth longest running race, 100-mile race. It's such a good race. Really great.
I'll have to put that on the bucket list.
Yeah, and it's like epically beautiful. There's a stretch they call the Alpine. No, I don't remember what it's called. But anyway, there's a stretch of like 12 to 15 miles in there. You go from about 9,000 feet, just kind of roll along this top of this ridge for literally like you only go up to maybe 10,000 feet, but for like 15 miles, you just in the most beautiful, lush pine forest, and then you come out on this huge exposed ridge, and it's just beautiful. Look both directions for 100 miles both directions, and then you drop down into these ski resorts, and it's just amazing, an amazing race.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add that to the
Yep.
bucket list.
Cool.
Let's take an opposite approach now, and then we got one other thing we want to talk about. But what's the hardest race on this list, and why? Why was it hard for you, or the most difficult race you've done?
Oh man. Okay. What's been the most difficult race? Jeez.
And it doesn't have to be the race in general. What was the most difficult for you? Like, which one did you struggle the most at?
Oh.
I mean, we know about maybe it's Mount Chiaha. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean my very first that and that's partly a mindset, right? Like your very first time you deeply suffer, it's hard to put into words to try to tell people what that's like. I mean, when you just think, if anybody were near me that I could get in a car and quit right now, I would totally quit right now. But my only option is to keep going. So Chiaha was probably the most demoralizing race of my life, but it definitely helped me realize, because a few hours afterwards, I'm like, I'm not in pain anymore. Why was I being such a wimp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you every time you do something like that, and especially when you first start out, you're exactly right. Like when you first start something like that for an ultra, that gauge is very low. Like a lot of people don't experience. I mean, the blisters for your feet, or the stomach going bad, or your legs just shutting down.
Yep.
And when you get to that point and you've never experienced, I mean, your mind tells you all kinds of reasons why to stop. Yeah. And then you slowly start to raise that gauge up to where your tolerance level just starts building. And I feel like we're always doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I think I got it. I think I got the hardest moment of any race.
Let's hear it.
Black toe, the second half of that race. So that was I did break the course record, but man, John Harden was like, "Why quit now? You've still got like an hour and 45 minutes." I'm like, "Yeah, this course sucks that bad that I don't." So like the first half of the race, I literally ran like 65 miles in the first 12 hours. I was like, oh, I can get 100 miles. This is nothing. And then right around maybe right as it got dark, the rain came in. And then for the next like 5 or 6 hours, it just rained really, really hard. And by 11 or 12 o'clock at night, the every downhill was a slip and slide. It was insane. Like we were just like skiing down these mud slides.
I remember.
Oh, it's horrible. He ships that weather in there and delivers it, and that second half is horrible.
That is by far the slickest mud that I believe exists around here when it gets wet.
It was so hard, literally. So now I did 60 or something, 60-ish miles in the first 12 hours, and I only did 25 more. And then I'm like, I'm done. This is terrible. And John was like, but you could easily make the record longer. And I was like, but I don't care.
And you guys try to talk me into doing that race.
Yeah, it's something about it. It's especially that second half. You sit there and look, it's like my shoes suck this bad, but no, it's just everybody. It's something in that second half.
Well, he's really pushing somebody to break that course record. I think he's offering a $1,000 prize now to get 100 miles there. To get 100 miles, I think it's 1,000 if I remember right.
No way,
Luke, you're missing out on more money, man.
Yeah,
dude. Okay, I'm going. We can
go look on Ultra Sign Up. I think it's $1,000 purse to break or to get 100 miles.
Oh man, I wonder if I could get it.
Luke is checking dollars.
He's like, "You got money on the line?"
I'm telling you, if it doesn't rain, I can get it. I'd make that.
Oh, it's gonna rain.
If it rains, then everything's out the window. But
John Harden, you heard it. Luke's coming.
I should text him tonight.
February 3rd. You got plenty of time.
You got plenty of time.
Oh man,
we'll taper, you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, I've been tapering this week already. So,
Luke, let's shift gears a minute from races and talk about your FKT.
Okay.
You know, I know you've set a couple, I believe.
Yeah, I've got maybe. I think I still have like 4 or 5.
Wow. Yes. So tell us which FKTs you have.
Oh man, I have to look it up. But at one point, so if you look up FKT, it just shows you everything you've ever had, right? And so it would probably show maybe 10 or 15. I don't know how it would show it, but I've actually made some also, and then went and set them. So they're almost. Are they all? No, they're not. They're not all in the Smokies. I made a few. I made one in Pennsylvania when I was on vacation.
I saw that one.
And so, you know, I'm not sure how to speak about all of them, but one of the more satisfying ones is a short one called the Mount LeConte Vertical Mile. That was a fun one. And I really wish someone would really, I think I still have it. Can you look it up? Anyway.
3 hours, 52 minutes.
And that, okay. Really?
That's the out and back.
Out and back.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was faster than that, but that's okay.
Looks.
No, it's been Brian's got.
Yeah, Brian Vermillion's got 2 hours, 10 minutes.
No. That's not the same one.
Go
to the Vertical Mile.
Well, no, that was one. That was
Is it just called Vertical? I see Mount LeConte Vertical Mile out and back, Mount LeConte Tour, and then there's another Mount LeConte Vertical Mile out and back. But they all say
they're all in that 3 hour range.
3 hour and 11 minutes.
3 hour 11. That's me, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Hang on.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
looking on
it
the
was
wrong
on- it
thing.
was on
Yes,
hours.
3 hours, 11 minutes. You still have it. Looks like the closest is a Joe Miller at 3.5 hours.
So that one is a fun one for me because the first guy who set that record, he went up a course, and I said, "Oh, I bet I could beat that record," and I ran the exact same course as him, and so then Joe comes. I think he's on vacation here. He was in Gatlinburg, and so he just decides that's not the fastest way up, and it's just called the vertical mile. So he chose to make the most direct path up, which is running up the road all the way to Rainbow Falls, running up Rainbow Falls Trail out and back. And so he did it in 3.5 hours. So I was like, hell no, I could break that record again. And and I was like amped up. I was like, I am gonna bust my butt on this. I climbed fast. I descended really fast. I have never descended that fast in my life. It was, if you've done Rainbow Falls Trail, it's a very technical trail, and I was averaging like 7:30 pace on the trail, and then when I hit the road, I was doing 5 minute miles all the way down back to the finish, and I was like, cars. I'm passing cars, right? Like cars are braking down the road, and I'm passing them as I'm sprinting at 5 minute pace, and it was just such a satisfying FKT. And so many FKTs are really long, right? This is one. As soon as I said, hey, you all, you guys who are 10K specialists, this is a fun one to go try. 3 hours, and it's awesome climbing, but you got to be. And I think I even put at the bottom, like in my notes, I was like, but you better be on your A game with your descending, because I was today, and it was so satisfying to descend like I did that day. It was just like, I get in this mode when I'm descending hard. I feel like I'm a mogul skier, and I'm just using my trekking poles, and I'm just like bounding sometimes really far distances, planting a pole and just leaping over stuff. And that was a very fun FKT. One of my best memories ever.
See, I kind of expected you to say Scar. So
Well, Scar is great. Scar, it was, we made a movie about it. Scar was a long time coming. It just took me 3 attempts. Yeah, Scar was very satisfying. I was just deeply moved when I was finally able to get it at the end. So yeah, on the long end, Scar, and then on the short end, that vertical mile.
yeah, so tell us this: how much time, training, and preparation went into the Scar?
Oh man. So that whole summer before I originally attempted it, I attempted it in October. Um, I was in the mountains every weekend running 35, 45, just really long runs, tons of time in the mountains. And so I was really dialed in. And then the very first day that I tried it, first time I tried it, that day was really rainy. It was a terrible day to even try. So, if anybody wants to find that movie or would like a link to it, send me it's still,
Yeah.
I can send you a free link to watch the movie. It's a fun movie, even though I don't hold the record anymore. It's still a really fun movie, about an hour long. But attempt 1 was a failure. We quit at Klingman's Dome. Attempt 2 was 8 days later. I was like, no, I'm so ready to do this. 8 days later, I went for it again, and I missed it by just a few minutes, because I got to the final descent, and what had happened was, like 8 a.m., as I was putting away my headlamp, I thought I put it in my pack, and I dropped it on the trail, and I had a backup, which I didn't think I was going to need, so I didn't check very carefully. I thought they were good batteries in the backup, and I got about 1 minute of decent light, and then how LED lights will suddenly go to like nothing, to that emergency, I can barely get you back with it. So the last 5 miles of that descent were with almost no light, and I ended up missing the FKT by maybe 20 minutes or something. So I would have had it that day. And because I basically just had to walk like at 1 mile per hour for the last 5 miles because I could barely see. So it was now October. It was October 30th, I remember. And I was like, well, I don't want to go for it again this fall. I need to reset. So the next 6 months, I just focused on nothing but that race or that FKT. And the following March, I did go get it. And so, man, it really was the culmination of probably a solid year of constant focus. So
Wow.
it was very gratifying. Yeah. So, like I said, if anybody would like to see the movie, it's called Ultraman, which is always kind of funny because my family mercilessly mock me by calling me Ultraman. But I can send you a free link, and you're welcome to watch it. It's on Vimeo, which is not a really common streaming site, but yeah, you can watch it for free.
Yeah, I believe we all watched it when it was on
It
Amazon.
was on Amazon.
Well, I tried to find it on Amazon, but it wasn't there. So I haven't saw it, Luke. I would like to see it.
Yeah. Send me a reminder afterwards. I'll send you a link, man.
Sounds good.
Well, Luke, I guess the biggest thing we'll do now is we got a list of questions from the listeners that we always send a poll out on the day of the podcast and get questions. So
Okay.
while Matt tries to find the list that we normally lose every
Got it.
podcast,
Man,
I'll go ahead.
job.
I'll go ahead and start us off. And we ask every listener this question, and it's, when things are tough, and you don't feel like going that extra mile, you don't want to run that last section, just like you were talking about, like there's times you just, you ran too hard, you're at mile 70 and you're bonking, but at the end of the day, like, why do you run?
I'm not going to pretend like I'm not the guy who doesn't quit. So I've quit. So, but if I feel like I'm not going to cause like true damage and be able to keep going, then I really want to. But I guess for me, I like to think about how much the whole experience is such a gift. To be able to do what I do for me personally is just such a blessing. And some people like ask me sometimes, like, do you have a genetic something or other? And I don't know. Is there something in my brain that's different than some other people? I don't know. But whatever it is in my physiology and my mental state, it's a gift that I just want to keep exploring and expressing gratitude for being able to do it by doing it more.
All right, Matt.
All
Looks
right.
like he found the list pretty
I got
quickly,
a few
so-
questions here. Some are from the listeners, and then some are from us. So the first one should be: do you prefer the last man standing or a solo challenge 100-miler? Which one do you prefer?
Man, they're both very important to me. The last man standing is so great for the community aspect, and I really love that aspect, and I love seeing everybody at their real struggle. It's such an honor to witness people as they're barely making the cut and they keep pounding it out. It's just so motivating. But there's something truly maybe majestic about these point-to-point courses, especially in the West, where you're just like in this amazing huge nature. And I think my heart is probably still on the 100-mile mountain race. It's just unparalleled, I think.
He's running the Wasatch Trail right now.
Yeah. But the races are lonely. I run most of those races by myself. And that's a lonely experience, but you can be one with nature.
Yeah,
I
what
love
made
that.
you awesome was when you, I mean, if you, and you guys remember this also, Mid-State Mile, it's dropping us left and right, and Luke comes in every lap, and he just kind of stop over there like, hey, how you guys doing? Is there anything, like you were a aid station volunteer or something like that, and you weren't even worried about yourself or your nutrition or anything. You just scroll in and be happy every lap and just talk to us, and that's very unique about you. That's why it's very awesome of you, Luke.
Thanks.
Well, and I love the fact that you said, and I didn't even think about this till you said it, but it's those last man standing races. You get to see, in a point to point race, you don't see people struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see them overcoming
Mm-hmm.
their personal best, their records. And man, in a last man standing race, you get to see it all. You
Yep.
get to see their emotion. You get to see their families there hugging them and celebrating with them. You don't hardly ever see that in a point to point race. Like
No.
you do at the very end, but it's so spread out. Whereas this, it's every hour.
Yep.
You get to a point in the race, you're just seeing something every hour, and it's just a celebration of somebody accomplishing something that they never thought they could do. And
Yes,
that's just so awesome.
it is. Yeah, I agree.
I love that. That's a great. I'm glad you said that because I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, you get to see that, and that's so special.
Yeah, I mean, there's really special moments in I think the mid-state format does it for me more because of the way we start each lap. I end up being able to be a little bit of a mentor and try to see if I can make a difference. What's your goal today? Well, you've already met your goal. Oh my gosh. Well, have you set a new goal? Oh, well, okay, so you're struggling in these ways. What do you want out of this? Can I help give you any advice or encouragement to help you get what you want? In back of my mind, I gotta partly say, there's no way in hell you're beating me, but what do you want to get out of it? You try not to be a jerk about it, but when you recognize that you can be a little bit of a mentor, it's really satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. The next one is how many course records do you have?
Oh gosh, I guess David knows better than I do.
Let's bag it up here. Let's bag it up. We're still on
maybe 5. I don't know.
So we still hold Maryville, Three Sisters,
Yeah,
Georgia Jewel.
Yep, Black Toe.
We have Three Sisters, Black Toe, Firewater.
Yeah.
Fontaine. You have multiple Three Sisters, but I will just count one.
Yeah.
And then you have the Georgia Jewel, Fontaindango, MST 100.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Firewater.
There I did.
You got that already. I think I'm up.
What is MST 100?
It's Mountains to Sea. It's over in North Carolina. Good course.
Okay, well you got that course record too, so that's impressive, Luke. What was that, 6? 7?
Yeah, it's 6. Yeah, MST is a good race. About it's a very similar feel to Georgia Jewel, but doesn't have the length. I mean, it doesn't have the what's the right word? It's in its 4th year, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good. It's really well done.
And like you said, you're always going to have the course record for what, Fontaindango?
Yeah, locked in. Good thing because I'm 48 years old and I don't know if I'm going to get anymore.
I feel you.
How did the movie Ultraman come about?
Okay, so
that's a good question.
My one of my best friends, his name's Chris Larson. He is best friends also with the movie directors, and they were over at his house once, and I was over there too, and we just started chatting, and they're like, "What do you do? Are you serious? You do what?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like to run. I like to run long distances." And and they're like, oh my gosh. They're like, do you know that we do documentaries? And I was like, oh yeah, I have seen something about that. And they're like, can we do a documentary about you? And I was like, really? And they're like, we're pretty sure we want to do this. And I said, well, that's funny that you said that, because like 5 months from now, I've set a goal to break the scar. I told them a little bit about the scar, and they're like, oh, we don't even need to discuss it anymore. We are totally in if you're in. And I was like, well, that's cool. Then let's do it. So it just was total luck for me, because yeah, I mean, how many people get to have that much effort put into making a movie about them? I mean, hopefully my grandchildren someday will pull this movie up and go, let's watch Grandpa's movie. You know, you never know. It was that moment when we did our premiere. We did a premiere in downtown Maryville at a little movie theater, and that was one of the most special moments of my life. I mean, like 300 or 400 people came out to the movie theater, and it was really, really special. They made me feel very special. I just was on the clouds for weeks after that.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and that's something that, I mean, you'll always have. You're right. Your grandkids will at one point see that. They'll be like, "Oh, let's watch Grandpa run the scar." I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So okay, one of the questions is, where are you originally from?
Boise, Idaho.
Idaho.
And we just had this conversation. Are you going to go back and try 100 miles in 24 hours at Black Toe?
I better decide soon.
Next question, which we already covered, that was what is your fastest marathon time? I think you said 2:58.
58.
Wow.
So, and that was, I bet that course was hot too, right, at Myrtle Beach?
No, it's in February.
Oh,
it's designed to be a fast race.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you said it's flat?
Oh, it's flat. It's flat over there.
Strictly flat. Like
Yeah.
maybe literally like 20 or 30 feet total.
Yeah. My best half PR was over in Myrtle Beach. Well, right outside of South Carolina. But yeah, it's flat. There is no such thing as a hill. A curb is what you call a hill over there. So
yeah.
How many of the Smokies trails have you done?
Probably about 700 miles.
Wow.
So I don't
900 of it or something like.
Yeah, roughly 800 or 900 or so. Yeah. So there's really just a section remaining over near Maggie Valley that I still need to do another maybe 100 miles or so over there. Then I'm pretty much done.
Cool.
Is that a goal?
Yeah, but not one that I'm aggressively trying to get done. I mean, definitely I'll get it. But anytime someone's like, "Hey, let's go run over there," I'm like, "Oh, perfect. I've not done that section, so let's go do it." Yeah.
Let's see. Have you ran any in the Cherokee National Forest?
Yes. In fact, at one point I was I was really planning seriously about doing the Benton MacKaye FKT, which is 288 miles, I think. And so I reconned, is what I was calling it, about 100 miles of the Benton MacKaye. I just didn't do the far southern section, and then I did everything up to Fontana Dam. But so I probably missed I didn't do the 100 miles in the Smokies, which I already done. I already knew that section. And then I did about 100 miles more. So I probably had 80 miles left that I haven't done. But yeah, I love Cherokee. The only problem is Benton MacKaye is really hard to follow sometimes. Like you can get lost that fast.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're on the trail and suddenly you're like, whoa, I don't know where I am. So Benton MacKaye is hard to follow.
Yeah, we've ran a little bit of it. It definitely ventures off into, you think you're on the trail, and then all of a sudden it just stops. And you're
You're
like,
in nature.
where am I at?
Yeah.
Do you prefer running East Coast or West Coast trails?
The wonderful thing about running in the East is you pretty much don't have a day of the year you can't make it up to the mountains. Pretty much. out west, you're real limited in the winter. You just got to change to something else. So I love the fact that we can run the mountains year round in the east. I should say in the southeast.
Mhm.
But there's nothing for me quite as majestic as the Western Mountains. They just blow my mind. But every once in a while, you get experiences like that in the East too. So I really do love the Smokies, and they're always have a wonderful place in my heart. But if I had all the money in the world, I would just like every weekend maybe go out to the West. I don't know, not really, but
Well, you definitely spend plenty of time out there running trails, I'm sure. I think we
yeah.
all would. And the last question we'll end on, which I think you've already answered, is what is the hardest event you've done?
I can't remember what I said. Black toe.
Yeah.
The second half of Black Toe.
Second half black toe. Yeah.
Well, Luke, man, we appreciate your time. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, what's next on each of the three of you's your agenda for races, not for interviews?
So, for Matt is doing this whole string of marathons. So he's doing all the major marathons, I guess, in East Tennessee or
Yeah,
Tennessee,
Memphis, Chat, Knox, something
Cool.
else.
Yeah, so he's trying to do he's wanting to do all 4 marathons. And then I've got Chattanooga Marathon, the Erlanger in March. Then I'm going to do the Yeti 50. I'm going to Bob's Backyard Ultra in August, and then Yeti 100.
Mm.
I'm still debating on the end of the year. I'm thinking about Pinhoti.
Oh, really? I've at least been playing with that. Glenn won't give up on me. He wants me to go do the Pinhoti so bad. So
That's what I'm leaning towards because it works out with the schedule. I think Pinhoti's in November,
yes,
Yeti's in September. So I just want to make sure I'm trying to be better at not running a race every month and putting myself back into rhabdo or anything else like I've done in the past years. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be better.
I'd
yeah,
like to do Pinhoti. It's hard for me because I'm cross country coach, and so that's
For who?
For Clayton Bradley Academy.
Yeah, awesome. That's
Yeah.
so cool, Luke.
Yeah, I've been doing that for 3 years now. And our boys went to state this year. We were pretty excited about that. But it's that Pinhoti is always 2 days after state, and so I just don't know if I'm going to be able to be prepared for something like Pinhoti. I'd love to do it though.
I'd like to see Luke as a cross country coach. He's going to take the school bus to Denso, and they're going to be like, field trip, and he's like, 7 miles. See you in an hour.
Yeah.
Careful. That one spot's over your head.
Yeah. Oh man, I cherish coaching. I just it's so rewarding.
What
even
age group?
high school and middle school, both.
Mhm.
'Cause we're a small school, so my wife is the head coach. She teaches at Clayton Bradley, and I'm the assistant coach. But I plan all the quality days. I plan a lot of the total weekly mileage. We work together, but she often will, let me plan those. And I try to be also kind of the motivational arm of our coaching. She's the administrative arm, because I just get so excited, and the kids think I'm crazy, and it's so fun. I just love it.
Well, that's awesome.
And I'm almost as fast as them, and I'm faster than some of them, but it's usually only a few of my faster boys that can outkick me in those 1,000-meter repeat.
Mhm.
That's so cool. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad we learned. I didn't even know you did that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
And Mike, go ahead and tell him your.
I've kind of been on this rails to trail adventure this year that I found myself on. So I found this Chief Ladiga, if I pronounce it correctly. It's kind of down there in Alabama. It's in April. It's a 100-miler. that I've had on my radar. And then, of course, I might throw a marathon in there just for the training block, just because it's the same platform. It's like pistol or something like that. Just the road stuff. And that's kind of it. I've got Yeti 50 on the schedule also, so I don't have anything the second half of the year. Just, I don't know. We're just, me and my wife's kind of got into running some, so we found a rails to trail down in Savannah towards November. So I'm venturing in that little area, trying to get some of the history of just some of that stuff is really cool. Cause we live right there pretty close to Athens. And so we got Gone Loco coming up, and the railroad history is really neat.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I love it that your wife is getting into it.
So do you have an A race for 2025? Anything big you want to try to do? I know you're holding something back. You got to tell us what you're planning here. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, 2024.
Well, so this is funny because Glenn Longhurst and I were talking about what I might do with this prize money I got, and I now feel a little bit more justified if I want to enter an expensive race like a 200 or a 240. And so I might see if I can figure out how to get into something long this year. Like, unfortunately, the Moab 240 is already missed. I missed the window for that. But maybe 25 I'd hit Moab 240. I'm not sure because the price is so high, right? It's $1,800. But
there's a brand new one in Georgia you can do. Southern States 250. It's 200. It's the David Tosh, the guy that puts on Blood Rock. It's the first year. It's going to be on the Pinhoti system.
How much is he charging? A ton?
I think it's 1,000.
1,000? Yeah, it's not too terribly bad. Yeah,
it's two different race directors are putting it together. It's David Tosh and maybe another race group. But yeah, it's brand new. It's on Ultra Sign Up. Take a look at it. He's been promoting it. I think they talk about it on the Adventure Jogger. If you want to learn more about it, I think they did an interview about the whole race.
Yeah, back in September, October of last year.
Yeah,
something like that.
But that's one you could look at too. But you know, there's several to choose from. If you do Cocodona.
Yeah. So I need to look around a little bit and just see now that if I have this little money that I don't mind justifying to an expensive race, because I'm cheap. So now that I've got,
you know what he should do, Mike? He should go win Black Toe, get the 100.
There's 1,000.
Mile, get 1,000, put that with it, and then just sign up for the Triple Crown next year.
the Pinhoti Triple Slam. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. No. Candace's Triple Crown. Run all three of the 200s.
Bigfoot, Moab.
You got this, Luke. And if you go you go to Black Toe and get that 1,000 and put it with your money, you're good. You only live once, Luke.
Basically, I think I could do Black Toe. Maybe I don't know. I don't think I'm injured. I ran a few miles today.
You're good. You look fine. And we're going to give prize money at Fort Frenzies. If you come out there, you can just keep throwing it out. We're going to give $500 to whoever breaks the course record.
Yeah, you got to break the course record and win overall.
I can break your course record. No, I don't know.
See you in August. So see, you do all that. We got you at like $5,000. You can do the Triple Crown, and it doesn't come
for this, and you won't even have to go to work next week, Luke.
What is the course record down there?
What's the name? You get 109?
Yeah, I think it's like 109 or 112.
Yeah,
is what Stamen got this past year.
And it's a little harder than Three Sisters.
Yeah, it's about 400 something feet of elevation gain over 3.5 miles.
Okay.
But what makes it so different is it's in the middle of August.
Yeah, it's super hot.
Yes. And then the longer time away from the aid station versus, I think Tony and Kathy have had to go to literally 2 miles now, on Three Sisters.
Yeah. So Unrunning's already donated $500 to the purse of anybody that can break the record. And then we may even potentially double that. So,
well, maybe
I think Luke should come out.
That would be fun. Well, I'll consider it, man. I
Well,
love
Luke,
earning money.
we'll be excited to see whatever you sign up for. So
Yeah, you'll do great at whatever you
yeah,
got.
we love following along. We followed along at the Conquer. I actually, when you when the race was over, I actually screenshotted you and the other gentleman and sent it in the group. And I said, Luke doesn't look happy.
Oh, was it the picture with me and Chris at the finish?
Yeah, you just looked like you weren't happy at all. I was like,
Well,
Luke doesn't look happy.
but we were kind of teasing. We were just joking there.
Oh, I got you.
Like
Mhm.
like like
You
we
was trying to sell.
yeah, did we let him win? No, I don't know.
Will we see you at Three Sisters?
Likely. Yeah. We'll see.
Good.
So we're starting our track season now as I'm a coach. So just got to see what how state lines up if I take any kids to state. So
Gotcha.
maybe.
That's awesome. Well, we hope so. That's really cool, Luke.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been extremely fun. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us. Mike, you got anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for what you do and what you give back, and how supportive you are on the course. Anybody ever gets a chance to run with Luke, I promise you will meet him whether you try to or not, and he will be a definitely a uplifting spirit out there on the trail.
No, thanks.
Luke, thank you so much for your time, man. Take care.